Did you ever find yourself in places where you said, "How did I get here?" or "Have I lost my mind? What was I thinking when I made this decision?"
Absolutely.
How did you move beyond that?
I think that's part of the ups and downs, isn't it? That no matter what we're doing, when we love what we're doing, we're connected to our passion. Sure, the dippy-doos of the day can still sometimes try to wiggle their way into our consciousness. And one thing that I try to remember, well, an example, I was once walking, maybe a few winters ago, walking home because I had lost my wallet. I never even told my family this. I had lost my wallet, and it was raining, and this is going to sound so insane, but I was wearing this sort of beautiful outfit because I had just come from an event, and I didn't have a coat, and I didn't have money, and it was raining, and let's not even talk about the hair, and it was just one of these crazy things, and I was walking home thinking, what am I doing? You know, I'm supposed to have this, glamorous, beautiful, wonderful life, and I'm trudging home in the rain, broken, alone. and then I asked myself, well, would I rather be sitting at that desk that I used to sit at 80 hours a week doing work that really didn't ignite my soul? And so for me, if I'm having a day where the dippy-doos are trying to insert into my consciousness, I'll just say, well, a bad day as an entrepreneur for me is still better than my best day doing what I used to do. So I just try to put it in perspective and count my blessings and keep going.
Right, and there are two things. One is the perspective. I talk often about checking your perspective and reframing. Reframing, because I think there are two sides. There's kind of a light and a shadow side to every situation. There's something to be gained from every instance when things are not, and that's what you did. You kind of said, you know what, this is not so great. I'm sure there's something more, but I'd rather this than what I had before. Right. So you kind of pushed beyond that. And that, I think, is what is critical in deciding, because you use that word a lot in your book. I decide, I decide, I decide. And that's a huge component, is to recognize your own power, the power that you have to decide, to choose otherwise, to begin something that's different from what you have.
It's true. And sometimes just to be open to that. Sometimes I wasn't always sure, what should my next step be? What is my direction? And I would try to remind myself to just sit still long enough to at least not rush into not knowing quite what, but just maybe let that next vision or that next inspiration come.
Well, and that's another big piece. Sitting still and letting that inspiration come. How many people here feel like they take a moment, maybe daily, but at least weekly, to check in? Hands? Anybody? How many people check in on a somewhat regular basis? Yeah, that's another piece. It's another step. Living a zesty life requires checking in and knowing what's true. And you reference that too in your book. What's true for you? Talk to us a little bit about chocolate tours.
It's exciting. Well, it's so funny. When I told somebody recently that I had started and own a company called Chicago Chocolate Tours, he said, ooh, is that a tour of black neighborhoods in Chicago? I think, that's a clever spin. I hadn't thought of that. Maybe I'll start that next. I don't know. That's kind of fun. But no, it's a tour company where we take you to all the best chocolate shops in Chicago.
And I can vouch for the experience. It's really fun.
Thank you.
And I think, what we prolonged the tour supposed to be, I don't know, an hour and 15 minutes, or 2.5 hours later, we're still chatting. But, where did that come from?
Oh, it came, I don't want to say by accident, but it was one of those things where necessity is maybe the mother of invention. I had the idea 5 years before I implemented it, and I know that a lot of us are that way sometimes. We get an idea and kind of think about maybe possibly thinking about starting to think about it some more. Yeah. Right. So I was thinking about it, and I was still working at the law firm, and I had sneaked out for 10 minutes to make a chocolate run, some therapy, some kind of retail chocolate therapy. And I was out on Michigan Avenue, and I realized, wow, there are so many amazing chocolate shops here. Why is there no tour? And I thought, if there were a chocolate tour, I'd take it, and I'd get to learn about all the chocolate shops and get to eat all the chocolate, but nobody had started one, so I didn't start one either. But I couldn't let that thought, or that thought rather, wouldn't let me get away. Sometimes the thoughts choose us, it seems, don't they? So the thought wouldn't let me get away. And I had some friends come into town, and they said, well, Valerie, what can we do that's really fun and different? And I said, well, I haven't told anybody this, but I have this idea to do a chocolate tour. Why don't I just take you to all my favorite chocolate shops? And I didn't tell the stores we were coming. I just showed up, and they knew me anyway, because I was always in there shopping.
Time
exactly, time and cash. And the store said, oh, Valerie, great to see you, and you've brought 5 friends with you. That's really nice. And the stores really spoiled us and pampered us with samples and attention and really telling us the history about their brand and chocolate as a world commodity. And everybody else in the store got jealous, and they came up to me and said, excuse me, but are you doing some kind of a chocolate tour? And can we take the next one?
Right.
I said, yes, you can. And so I wasn't one of those who had the full business plan and the financing and the mentors. I just got their email and emailed them back, and next Saturday we just went to some more chocolate shops, and that's how I started.
Okay, huge. Huge. This would be another huge point. Our ideas won't always wait for us. They show up in our lives, these fabulous ideas and inspirations, and we will mull them over until they're diluted. They're more than weak tea. So what you're saying is you acted.
Yes.
You followed an inspiration, you acted, and when people wanted you to do the same thing for them,
Right.
you took action.
It's true. I once heard somebody describe it as building your castle in the sky and then building the foundation afterwards. That's
right.
kind of what it was.
And there are times when people show up to help you even see
Yes.
what you're supposed to be doing.
Absolutely.
Our helpers, the angels, they'll show up and they'll give us a hint.
Right.
Somebody's literally asking you to
Right.
do the same thing for them next week, but you followed through. And we can be so hesitant around that. Like, I'm not sure. We want to analyze and rationalize and think it over. And I am very guilty of being an A-type personality myself. And I want to cross the T's and dot the I's and make sure and rethink and redo. And I'm having to learn to surf. To kind of, in the moment, if it's happening, walk through the door.
Yeah.
And it's a scary thing to do, but gee, look at what blooms
Right.
from that space. And it's really about trust. There's another element there, which is about trusting. And trusting your guidance, trusting the opportunity, trusting that what you need is going to be provided for you.
Isn't it true? When we listen to that intuition, it doesn't scare us away.
Right? So, trust. And in the moment, when the opportunity comes, to squeeze in there and let it happen.
Absolutely.
We each have a purpose. I actually think we have multiple purposes, but that is debatable, I'm sure, amongst all of the thinkers of the world. How do you describe what your purpose is?
That's a great question. I believe that we have multiple purposes as well. I guess if I had to choose one, I would say maybe it's conceivable that we're all here to help and love and support each other, and to contribute in whatever way we can or desire to or feel that is imperative for us at the moment to make that contribution. And in doing so, others then get inspired to contribute their part, and together we're all lifted up.
That sounds lovely. I don't think anybody's going to object to that as a purpose.